If you don't know Michael Reese, like I want you to give you your quick 60-second, bird's eye view of who you are, what you've accomplished, and what you've built.
Man, I am the 7-year-old rookie tackle football coach for the Sooners in Frisco, Texas. Father to Cash, Court, and Crew Reese. Husband to Stacy from Oklahoma. The guy that drove the same truck from the day he got into real estate until about 6 months ago when it caught on fire. That's who I am. That's my identity. Everything else, man, I'm just a student, really. I believe, I saw a quote once from Jim Rohn, if you don't have everything you want, you simply haven't learned something yet. And I believe skills can be learned, and anything that you want to do, if you're willing to study, you can get an unfair advantage. So I like to outwork my competition. And usually that means by, if you're going to watch 5 YouTube videos, I'm going to watch 15. I want to be the David Goggins of learning.
There you go.
I like the idea that like your mind is pliable and you can learn, because I was that slacker 20-year-old who was like, nope, this is just the amount of willpower I got for life, so I guess I'm just not going to be much more than this. And as I've gotten older, I realized that that's a horseshit excuse that you use to not have to like push yourself harder. But it all comes through book learning, and that's something that I've picked up recently in my life. I love it.
Yeah, for me, I never read a book. I was a C student. I got in a lot of trouble. When I was 14, I got arrested for murder. They kicked in my door on Super Bowl Sunday, and people used to say, I remember my buddy Leo Turner's dad said, if God would have came down himself and said Michael Reese was in our house on Christmas, I would have told him to piss up a rope. I don't know what that meant, but that's what he said. And so, from being a kid, I got shot in the face when I was 14. It changed everything for me. It put me into perspective of things could happen to you. Parents went to a divorce that year, and I found myself, at a very young age living in the Colony, Texas. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but my uncle just got out of prison. My dad dropped me off at his house, and in Oklahoma prison, life sentence is a 20-year sentence. So my uncle Claude, who passed away, got out of prison. I got dropped off in the Colony, and I never went home. I ended up going to the school. I went to school there for 1 year, and I didn't really like, I came from Oklahoma. I listened to only country music. I mean, all 100% country music. And so I remember, and I remember talking to my uncle, and my dad ended up getting a house here from Tulsa. Long story short, I ended up saying, man, I want to go back to Oklahoma. And I went back to Oklahoma, and I lived with a neurologist, Dr. Ronald E. Woosley. And he had a bunch of kids. His youngest kid was a guy named Luke Woosley, who was a year younger than me. And through that whole time, I played golf, believe it or not. So I played golf since I was 12. And so all the kids that I've always said, the kids, when they say, show me your friends, I'll tell you your future. Yep. All of my buddies were golfers by coincidence. Even when I would kind of steer off course, I'd end up with these guys on the golf course. We might, put something in our golf bag we shouldn't have, but you can't get in too much trouble on the golf course. And so I think that kind of put me into a unique situation of being able to live with this neurologist in the very first day. It's a long story. I left my house. I moved back. I was in Dallas. I went up there. My mom was stationed in North Korea. My mom was a retired command sergeant major.
Wow.
And I was jumping in a swimming pool, and Carol Woosley, which was Luke's mom, came out and said, hey, I heard you were trying to get our daughter to sign for an apartment for you. You're not even old enough to drive, I don't think. What are you trying to do to get an apartment? She called my mom in Korea, got the phone number somehow, and when they got off the phone, I moved in. And then I went to school there my senior year and my first year of college. And I ended up moving out of there to move in with John Kitchens, which is, he was on my golf team since 7th grade, but he ended up running Jay's real estate team and coached with us and stuff like that, so he could verify all of those statements.
That's awesome.
But that's kind of what it was. And what I learned, man, is, I ended up building a lawn service. And Dr. Woosley used to wake me up in the morning, and he would say, he gave me a Wall Street Journal with stock, and I saved over $100,000 by my 20th birthday, mowing grass and investing in stock. And Dr. Woosley, he made me buy these fictitious bagel companies and stuff like that at the kitchen table, and I'd buy them, and then they would go up, and then he'd make me do the math, and I would learn how my money would make money. And I was like, well, shoot, I need to go get some money so I can buy some real stock. And that was that was kind of my pathway to that. And I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Blues Fest, and on the way home was listening to Randy Travis 11 o'clock at night, coming up on Oklahoma City, and a buddy of mine called me from a Motel 6 in Bedford, Euless-Hurst, and he said, man, you can install cable here down in Euless, and they'll pay you, $40 a wall fish. I didn't know what any of this meant, but I ended up making a U-turn, and that morning met with a guy named Catfish in an El Camino in the parking lot of a Motel 6, and that's how I ended up moving to Dallas.
Dude, you know what? And the funny thing is, this is my first time in the room with this guy, and I've never heard that story, and that is fucking hilarious, dude.
I've known Reese for a long time, and I've never heard that story.
Dude, that's amazing.
So